Hello everyone, welcome to the Pushing Horizons podcast. This is your host Ash. Running's funny, right? It starts with let's just get fit, and suddenly you are deep into chasing marathon times, juggling life, family, work, all of it. And for some of us, it's never just about one finish line. It's about what's next. Today's story is exactly that. Someone who went from barely knowing what 10K even was to standing on the start line of the Tokyo Marathon and not just finishing it with the fire in the gut saying, I am not done yet. Balancing 60-hour work weeks, raising a kid, squeezing time into crack of life, and still chasing that sub-4 goal. Not for anyone else, for themselves. And this is what pushing boundary really looks like. So let's get right into it and let me introduce to our guest today. Hey Salma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ash. It's so nice to finally talk to you. I've been looking forward to this for some time now.
Yes, me too. And I know who Salma is a little bit because I have followed your journey and your recent marathon adventures and stuff like that. But for the guest, can you please give a quick introduction about you?
Okay, I'm Salma and I've been running for 2 years now. I live in Canada, in Toronto, cold Canada. Don't get me started. But I've traveled quite a bit and I'm finally settled here, and I started my running journey 2 years ago. I'm also a physician. I'm a mum. I have a little 8-year-old cheeky little boy. Yeah, and I'm happily married.
Okay, let's kick it off with a very simple question. You told us a little bit about you. Can you now explain us who is Salma when she's not running? And can you please tell us how did running first come into your life?
When I'm not running, I'm quite busy with my work. I am a family physician. I work lots of long hours. Sometimes I finish at 7:30 p.m. And then I'm also a mum and I have my little boy that I want to spend lots of time with. It's a really busy life, juggling, running, being a doctor at the same time. Yeah, it's just constant work, constant busy. I think the second part of your question, you said how I started running. Is that right?
Yes.
After having my little boy 8 years ago, I obviously was worried about my weight and I wanted to get fit. I started doing some weight-based training and I did that for 2 years. And after I did that, I thought, this is getting a bit boring. I need to do something that's challenging. I need to do something more. My husband said, why don't you try running? And I thought, okay, I'll just try it. I did half an hour on the treadmill. I surprised myself that I was able to continue to run for just half an hour because I hadn't been able to do that in the past. I clearly thought to myself, what can I do more than just running on a treadmill? And I started Googling, maybe I can run a 10K. I didn't even know how far a 10K was. I clearly remember being in Australia on a holiday and I Googled 10K runs in Toronto. And this race came up, the Under Armour race in June. And this was in about March. And I said, I'm going to sign up for that and I'm just going to do it. And I signed up for it, not knowing what I was doing. And I had a little paper that says, okay, run 5 days this week. I started doing that. And then I went for that first run. And in that run, it was so incredible to see all these people around you that you'd never known cheering you on and running with all those people and just the environment. I got so addicted to it. And I thought I need to do the next step up, which is a half marathon. By then I just signed up for a half marathon 2 months later.
Interesting. You went from researching for a 10K, then you started doing a half marathon. At what point you realized that's not enough for me? Now I need to do a marathon.
I did the first half marathon. And when I went to pick up the bib for the half marathon, there was a big sign there that said half marathon runners here, full marathoners here. And I looked at the marathoners and I thought, they must be crazy. How do they do more than 21Ks? And I said to myself, the next time I turn up, it's going to be a full marathon. I want to be those guys. And I just signed up for the full marathon, not knowing what I was putting myself into.
You said you wanted to lose some weight when you got into the running. Was there a moment or a reason other than that made you just go for a running for the first time?
I just wanted to do something different. With the weight-based training, I thought, I'm noticing differences in my body, but I need to keep my fitness levels up. Let me try running, which is something different. And when I did that first run, I surprised myself that I could run continuously for 30 minutes. And that to me was, what more can you do? Can you do more than 30 minutes? Can you push yourself further? And I quite enjoyed that. I got that high, and I get really high after running, Ash. You know, I listen to music and I dance and I do all these stupid things. I got addicted to that feeling.
Oh yes, that's a nice feeling when you just come off a run and then, especially at the beginning, right? When you're like, oh God, I ran 30 minutes and then it's, oh God, I ran half a marathon and then it's, oh, now I can run a marathon. I need to go for ultra.
Exactly.
In that topic, have you ever thought of going ultra now since you can run marathons easily now?
I can't lie, right? That little thought is creeping up in my mind. What's next? What's next? So I keep saying I need to better my marathon time. But yeah, I just need more of a challenge. It's so addictive. I haven't told my husband yet, but yeah, that's soon going to be there for sure.
It's a totally different experience though, because like you, I have only done marathon before. I recently switched from marathon to ultra marathon, and like you, I also been chasing for trying to run faster and faster. And every time I feel like I'm totally fit when going for a marathon. That's the last year I did body marathon, and I feel like I was in my peak at the time, and then injury and then sickness right before. And now I don't worry about the time anymore because I'm training for my first ultra, and it's fun because I don't have to look at my watch. I don't need to remind myself that I need to run faster because it's more about the distance and completing it. Yeah. So now it's different feeling. So I think you'll enjoy it because it doesn't matter like how fast run or how you run. It's about how much can you go further. So I think this will be a nice different change.
Absolutely. I think sometimes the time always puts a bit of pressure on you, doesn't it? It's just nice to know that you just managed to do the ultra without even looking at the time.
Yeah, definitely, because it doesn't even matter, right? Because the elevation is so high you cannot possibly all the time. It's just about completing, and it's
moving.
It's just about moving, and you have to run, but it's not all about running, and it's not about like to do sub 3, sub 5. It's just about just going and enjoy and be happy about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we talked about this just now. You said that you were not happy with just doing the weight, right? At what point you thought, as you said at the beginning, you were like, you just wanted to see if you could do 30 minutes, and you were like, oh look, I can do 30 minutes. At what point time in your life that you started going from just running for exercise, then you really started loving for it?
I think as soon as I did that first run on the treadmill and I said I have to motivate myself to do better, and I signed up straight away for the 10K, it just became a training process straight away. To me, it's not that I ever started running just for the fun of it. It was just I have to get to that point. I have to train for the 10, then I have to train for the half. But then I just enjoy the process so much. After the marathons, I often tend to do some fun runs, but I enjoy the run when I do the run, but I really need that motivation to say, what are you training for? What are you doing? I always have to sign up for something.
Do you always need to have this goal to run because you want to do better at it? Is that it? Or you just want to just run for the sake of running?
No, this is my problem. I'm just very goal driven, and I have to always be achieving something. And I know I should be just running to have fun, but I can do that between marathon blocks. But then I just think, oh, what's your goal, Sal? What are you doing? I have to always have something booked in. It's my flow.
I get that feeling because that's what I used to think too, because I used to run, but then races were always for me where I would try for PB or anything. But then I was talking to my brother, and I told him I need to book a race because I want to see if I can do a PB. And he's like, why do you need to do a PB?
And this is what my husband always says to me. You don't need to run to get your best. Just run for the fun of it, Sal.
It's fun and it's okay to be like that. After talking to him, what I did was I went and I just ran. It's like my regular run, so I didn't need a race. I just wanted to talk to you about that. Would you be open to that? Would you just go for a run without any training block or anything, without any days marked in your calendar where you say, okay, this is the day I'm going to try a PB, so you can just manifest it and put a calendar on your date and just try it instead of going for an actual event? Would that work for you?
I think that's a good idea. I need to take my watch off and just run. I need to get into that mindset one day, Ash.
It is hard. It is hard because I totally know how it feels, and it's also a nice thing. And when you are so competitive with yourself, sometimes we can't help because it's our fun too. The atmosphere, like everybody's coming together, and there are all the events that are going on. There is a music, there is a finish line, there is everything. It's so nice.
It's like cult, right, Ash? We're part of this big cult.
I always say running is addiction because when you get started, then it just, we're just gonna run. But then you run, the longer you can run, and it becomes like, I need to run and I need to do this. And then when you started doing races, it's just like, oh God, I need that I need that noise, I need that crowd. And I think it's so addictive.
Absolutely.
And also, massive congratulations on your Tokyo because you finished that recently. What was that experience for you from start to finish?
You mean for the training or the run itself? The races?
From the training to finish.
Tokyo, I felt incredibly lucky to be able to do that marathon. I think the biggest challenge was training throughout winter, which the winter we had was horrendous. A lot of the training runs had to be done on the treadmill, which I don't mind, but I felt that I couldn't really gauge my pace as well. I had to also train because with Tokyo, you don't have access to your own water. So they provide all the fluids, and I'm used to regularly taking sips when I'm running. So I had to train myself to only really have water available after every 2Ks or after every 3Ks after the first 5Ks. That was the biggest biggest challenge. The run itself was incredible. It was a world major. There was more than 33,000 people. It was incredibly well organized, apart from the fact that they ran out of water on the course because it was the hottest they'd had in the history. Yeah, that was the challenge. But the people, I was surprised because I was told that the people are not very loud and they don't really cheer you on. But those people, they looked you in the eye and they just started speaking in Japanese and saying, there was a particular phrase, I can't remember exactly, but they would just, it was like, to them, you could see they were really proud of what you were doing. To them, it was like, wow, look at you, and keep going.
Yeah.
And there was all these people on the streets that were giving you their little fruits and their little boxes of things. And it was just very humbling, a very humbling experience.
So how did it go from training in Canada where it is minus, right? 2 Celsius, it's winter. And then you said you went to do this Tokyo Marathon and coming from cold to the hottest day in the history of the marathon. How did that affect you from training in the cold? How did you make it out?
It did affect me, and I was quite disappointed. I didn't get the time or the pace that I wanted to, and I was also very jet lagged. I said to myself, I went 3 days before the marathon itself. I caught the flight, and so the flight was about a 14-hour flight, so there was jet lag to deal with, and I was ignorant of it. And I said to myself, it's okay, you're running a marathon, you'll have all that adrenaline, you'll be fine, you won't be tired. But I was tired. I had injured my ankle the day before. I was not used to the heat, again, the water situation. There were so many challenges there, and of course the temperature. There was a huge temperature change that you've been used to training in a basement and on a treadmill, or sometimes on cold ice, snow, and all of a sudden it's warm. I think it was more of a mindset to say to yourself, I just had to say to myself, this is a once in a lifetime experience, and I just have to push it and just do it.
And how did you feel when you crossed that line?
It's incredible, isn't it? That finish line feeling, especially after the marathon, that achievement, those weeks and weeks of training, that anxiety that leads up before the race to say, can I do it? Will something go wrong? To seeing the family, all your support at the end, and then just saying, now I can just eat anything I want.
Yes, definitely. Drink and
the medal.
Yes,
of course. And the medal, I never put the medal on myself. I make the person, I say, come on now, I've earned this, put it around my neck.
And also, when you were training for this Tokyo Marathon, did you have a plan? And was there any specific blocks, like struggles when you're running through the whole training, and then the breakthrough that stood out? You said that there was, like, the cold was the particular issue, right, for you, but apart from that,
yes,
was your training block that looked like, and any struggles or breakthrough within this training block?
I took a different approach with this training block. I used a lot of zone 2 training with this one, which was hard on a treadmill. I had to do sometimes 3.5-hour runs at a very slow pace to maintain that heart rate. And then, of course, a few of those tempo runs. And then, again, it was just difficult to gauge my pace after just doing most of the stuff on the treadmill. I would run, I think it was up to 60K a week in the peak weeks. But yeah, it was just a lot of zone 2 running, which was very different to my first marathon block. I just ran as fast and as hard as I could, and all my figures looked amazing on Strava.
So you had totally different types of training, right, between the first marathon and Tokyo Marathon. So what was the major difference for you in terms of time and effort? Which one you felt was more aligned to you?
I'm not going to lie, I really enjoyed my first training block because you were getting all these amazing paces, and Strava saying your fitness is going up and everything's looking great. Of course, Garmin doesn't do that. But on the second training block, when I did do zone 2 training, I felt that my body was recovering a lot better after a lot of the runs because I was doing the easy runs very easy. It was nice, but I didn't enjoy it as much because those long runs were a little bit boring for me. Yeah, exactly. And I had to force myself not to listen to good music, because if I listened to good music, I wouldn't do a zone 2 run.
Because you go up based on the BPM. But yeah, that sense.
Exactly.
And talk about the race that you did. What was the thing that caught you off guard? Like you talked about the course, the crowd and atmosphere, and you said the people were so nicer and they were cheering you and they're proud of you. In general, what did you felt about the whole race?
I really enjoyed the scenery, seeing these big temples out of nowhere just come up all of a sudden, because I didn't get a chance to sightsee Tokyo before the race because we landed a couple of days before. All of a sudden you're running and there's this massive, beautiful temple right in front of you. And then these trains and just gorgeous scenery. That to me was what I really enjoyed.
So can you take us to the final stretch as you are running this Tokyo Marathon and there is this heat, you are tired and you are running to the final stretches of the run? What was going through in your head and how were you feeling?
I said to myself, I talk to myself a lot when I run, Ash. Your first sign of madness.
We all do that.
We do, right? We have.
Yeah.
I said, come on, Sal, it's the last one. It's the last one. You can see it, that finish line feeling. And then pictured my husband and my son, right? Because they're always in that last K. So I'm conscious looking around me. And then I saw my husband and son yell at me. And my son, I heard him say, go, mama. And that was my real push. He said to me, because I always ask them before my run, I say, what should I think of when I'm struggling? Tell me. And they'll tell me something each. So my husband will say something like, you've trained so hard, you've got this in you. Or my son will say, think of us at the end, mama, we'll have a donut for you. And I just picture and remember those words.
And when you were running through, right, from the first kilometer to 42, how do you go about it? Do you start counting, okay, 1 kilometer done, 2 kilometer done, and then after a certain point, are you going to be like, okay, only 10 kilometers left, only 9 kilometers left? What is your mindset when you're running through a marathon?
You break it down, don't you, in your head? You say to yourself, and I always do this with my nutrition and my salt tabs and things, because I say to myself, like every half hour, you've got to take the gel, you've got to take 2 salt tabs or whatever it is. But it's more to me the 5K mark. So when I've done 5K, then I'll say, okay, you've done 10. So you've almost done a third. And then you reach the halfway point and you think, okay, now the real struggle starts. Now just be positive and now push. But then I try to keep my mind occupied to say, you've just got to have another gel. You've just got to have another salt tablet. And you're a quarter done, half done, 3/4 done. It's constant talking in my head and breaking down into pieces.
Have you ever hit the wall while running the marathon?
I wouldn't say it was the wall. Maybe my first marathon, I got these incredible cramps, but I think my nutrition was pretty much on point for Tokyo. I didn't really get to that wall.
Okay. And like when you were talking earlier on, you mentioned that you like run around 60 kilometers a week. When is a typical training block look like? Is it the same for you right now when you're training for something? What are you training for right now, actually? First question.
I have the Chicago Marathon coming up in October. I'm between marathon blocks, so I'm just working on building my base at the moment. At the moment, I'm doing about up to 50 Ks maybe a week, 40 to 50 Ks a week now.
Okay. And since you say you are off the training block and you are not on it, so what is the difference between when you are running in the actual training block when you train for some marathon, let's say for Chicago Marathon, compared to what you are doing right now? What would be different between these two?
Several things. I think I'm a bit stricter with myself when I know it's a marathon training block. Like at the moment, so I did an 18K this morning, and if I had to stop to have a gel or to take a picture, I'd stop. But I think if I'm doing the marathon training, I'm saying to myself, you can't stop because you're not going to stop in the marathon. I'm more forceful with myself. And also I'm more stricter with getting my paces and with my nutrition in the marathon training block. I'm making sure I'm eating properly in the mornings. And also the longer runs in the marathon training are much more longer than between the training blocks. I do up to 35 Ks in the marathon training blocks as a single run as opposed to non-marathon.
Like you said, your first mat, right, when you were doing, you were more about the pace, more about the stat that you're looking at and all the fitness, and then all the splits looks way better. But then you trained with a different approach in Tokyo Marathon because you were running based on heart rate. That's what most people do. What will be your approach in the Chicago Marathon?
I think a bit of a mixture of both, Ash. I've learned with the Zone 2 training, I learned that the slow runs should be really easy runs, but I don't think I will do them extremely slow to the level that it's painfully slow. It will be an easier run for me, and I will really push hard with the hard runs, but I don't think I can go to the full Zone 2 training again.
But you're saying that run slow to run faster.
Yeah, right. But you also have to have fun, right?
Yes, that's what we do on the threshold run or the tempo run.
Yeah.
You go and you give it all, like you were talking about. When I was training for the Berlin Marathon last time, that's all my focus was. And all of my runs were harder because I also did the same thing. You need to run faster to get the time, right? Because if you do the slower run in the slower pace, then it may not necessarily do it. For me, it felt like a job because every Monday I did 15-16 kilometers and I used to run around 5 to 5:10 because that's what my pace was and what I needed to hit in my training run so that I can run a little bit slower when I'm running the marathon to get this up 4 hours.
Yes.
And then it sucked because every time I run, then it felt like it is a job and I need to hit the split, otherwise I wouldn't get the time. When you have this such kind of time in your mind and when you are training for something like a event or a time-based result, you need to run at a certain pace and certain distances when you're doing the training. Do you feel like it's like a job or it's not like it's fun anymore?
Yeah, like that's That's one of the parts of it, right? You think I have to wake up every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock and do this 2 hour run. Then your friends are saying, do you have to? You don't have to, do you? And no, you have to do it. It does feel like it. I tried to make it a bit better by doing a different route, going somewhere really nice, telling myself you're going to have this really nice scenery at the end of the run to look at, or you're going to have a nice iced coffee or a Coke Zero. Just, it's like a paycheck, right? After the run. It is a job.
Yes, I always enjoy iced latte after the run. It's so good.
On a
good.
Coke Zero.
And we talked about earlier, right? You said you are a physician, you are a mom, and you run. You're a marathoner. So how do you balance everything? Running, work, life, family?
It's hard, right? I have my days where I know certain days I'm not working such long hours, the days that I'll tend to do my runs. Sometimes I'm coming home at 7 at night and I'm thinking, I have to do this run now and I have to do it. I just have that mindset to say, you just have to do it. You just have to get on with it and do it. And of course, you get really tired and life's busy, but how bad do you want it? You'll do anything to get it if it's what you really want, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So do you run by how you feel, or do you just strictly follow a plan?
I think I'm always following a plan. I need to, this conversation has made me realize, just go out and just have a fun run.
Yes, definitely. You should do that, because sometimes we need to do that too. It's not about stats, or it's not about trying to train for anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta go and enjoy and run based on how you feel, because that you still love it. Otherwise, we would be in this race where we just want to keep running faster, and it's gonna go at a point where it's not gonna be any fun anymore because it sucks.
Exactly.
Yeah, and especially if you don't get the goal you wanted, then it sucks. On that topic, you said that you were training for a specific time in the Tokyo Marathon.
Yeah.
You were training in this cold weather, and then all of a sudden you went to Tokyo and it was super hot and you didn't get the time you wanted. So how did you felt?
Because I'm so goal driven, I felt pretty miserable about it. I thought, what was that all about? All that work. But I spoke to my coaches and friends and people that I really look up to say there was lots of issues there. Winter training is always difficult. There was jet lag, there was hot weather, no accessibility to water as much as I needed, and the ankle. It's okay, that happens, and you've done all that training and nobody can take that away from you. You've still got that fitness level that you've built, and just continue to use that for the next one.
Was it easier for you to go back to the training block, or just to run after that for a few days?
I took a couple of weeks off because we're touring around Japan. It involved lots of walking and lots of stairs, as anybody who's been to Japan would know. I had my husband taking pictures of me walking down the stairs after the marathon, which I couldn't really do. And everybody looked at me. There was lots of walking for 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, I just came back and I just started doing some easier runs, and I've gradually built it up over the last 2 months.
And talking about the same topic, you mentioned that sub 4 is your goal and that's what you are going for, and it's a big challenge physically, mentally. It's something that you want to achieve. When did this become a realistic goal and a personal goal for you, like you wanted to do this sub 4?
In September last year, just before my first marathon, one of my trainers said to me, why don't you just go and do this half marathon a couple of weeks before the full? And I thought, okay. And I just did it, and I had no goal or time pace. I just wanted to do it as a long run, and I managed to get a sub 2, which I was very surprised by. I was really happy with that result. And I said to myself, if I could do a sub 2 half marathon, then surely a sub 4 shouldn't be that difficult to do. I know there's still lots of training and lots of things that I need to do to get there, but I think it's doable. I think I can see it can happen.
And from your perspective, by the time you get on your last marathon and Tokyo Marathon and the sub, what are your realistic plans to close up that gap that you need to?
I used to run just 3 days a week. I've increased that to 4 now. I've always strength trained. I'm still doing that, but I've really dialed in a lot on my nutrition. I don't think I used to eat enough. There was always, being a woman, there was always that thing about, am I going to put on weight here? I'm doing this for fitness. Should I have more carbs? But I just recently, with one of my trainers, worked out that I'm not really having nowhere as much carbs as I should be. Really having more of that has really helped me. I think running an extra day, continuing with the strength training twice a week, and just eating more, feeling better, I think should help.
Yes, definitely. You need carbs, because if you are doing that, especially the long zone 2, then you need to have that. And also, we talked about getting into the sub 4 category. Are you trying to achieve that on doing the Chicago Marathon? When you do
that would be nice.
When you will be doing that, are you gonna be tweaking anything in your training? For instance, the speed work, pacing, fueling, mindset when you are closer to it? And also, are you working with a running coach right now?
I am actually. That's the one new thing that I've been doing. I have this fantastic coach that I've been working with for the past 6 weeks now. His name's Jamie. He's just amazing. His advice and his knowledge on the sport is just incredible. And I've never had a running coach before. I think to me, that's a huge game changer. He's really tailoring my runs according to what I'm doing so far. There's lots of speed work in there. And yeah, I just feel more supported.
You have a running coach, then that kind of take care of a lot of things because you don't need to plan it or do anything, and they just make the plan for you, and it's easier to execute it.
That's right.
And also, let's talk about the mindset for a bit, because when you run, and especially those longer runs that you talked about earlier, like 3 hours, 3.5 hours, when you're doing in your treadmill, those kind of things. So do you self-talk during those big long hours? Because it's not fun running the treadmill. So when running and these things comes in mind, oh God, why I'm doing this? Or when you have those tough moments, what do you say to yourself?
I think it's very hard, right? Like it's 3.5 hours on a treadmill when it's miserable outside, but you say to yourself, look, you have to do this. I often do this little talk the night before to myself to say, I have all my stuff, all my gels, everything ready. And I say to myself, you've just got to do this. Just break it down into half an hour or 1 hour blocks. And my son writes me a little note that I tend to put on my treadmill to say, you got this, or you could do it. Sometimes I call my husband on the phone to say, I've only done an hour. And he says, come on, man, get on, do 2 more. So it's just the mind and breaking it down. Sometimes I put Netflix on if it's really boring. But yeah, I think that's what helps the indoor run. The outdoor runs, as I said, I just pick a really nice route that I don't have to work out too much or stop by. I just know I've just got to run straight and back. And it's just going to be beautiful, and there's going to be lots of other runners that are going to wave at me, and we're all doing this together. We're all just egg each other on.
So we talked about this a little bit. When you are for a marathon or half marathon or 5K or any distances, there are some days when it just, oh God, I just don't want to train, and it sucks. The run sucks. Everything sucks because you just want to rest. Because marathon training is hard because you get mentally, physically fatigued and tired because of the running. What will you do when you have those days where you don't want to run and the motivation is so low? How you get off that?
A few things. Sometimes I think to myself, if I put my shoes on, I have to do it because the shoes are on. Sometimes that works, but it doesn't always work. Then I say to myself, or I say to my husband, can you just make sure that I run today? Just make sure that I do it no matter what, so that he will force me to go out. But then if I really don't want to do it, then I just look at my schedule to say, I can always run tomorrow because tomorrow is a free day. But if I don't have a free day, then I just go out and just make sure I do it. And of course, the last thing is music. If I have some really banging tunes playing, it's just going to motivate me, and I'm just going to say, just do this, just go, just listen to that music, just get that time to yourself.
So do you always run with headphones on?
Yeah, it's like a club in my ears when I'm running. It's really
DM?
Yeah, like really loud club music. I don't listen to any of the slow, like it's got to get me going.
I hear you. I do that sometimes. I like EDM sometimes. I like rock, and sometimes I like just those acoustic tunes. Especially if I'm running in the trails, then it's just like music and quiet. And now I have started running without headphones because when I'm running in the trails, I just hear bird tweeting. I think you are much aware of a lot of things. I got scared so many times because of my own shit. When you are running, brush off my like hat against my jacket and noise, and I'm like, oh shit, what the hell is that?
Yeah, you have to be aware, right, around you. And the headphones sometimes affect that for sure.
Yes, especially I'm running in the trail. Now after talking to so many trail runners, as you probably have listened to the podcast, now I take off the headphones. Now I started enjoying and noticing more things. It is nicer. But I do like my music like you sometimes. If I'm running on the road, it's so nice to just be in this own space.
I think if I was on the trails here, I'd be very I don't think I'd wear headphones. I think I'd be worried about bears and all those things that you get in Canada. You hear all these stories about all these animals around, but yeah, that would worry me.
There are no bears here. There is only, I think the scariest thing I have seen is a boar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was right next to me. I didn't even see it. It's too late. But it was eating something, and I just didn't look at it. I just moved past it.
You ran faster, right?
No, I just kept running. No, I just didn't change anything or make any. I tried to go faster. I just tried to my pace the same and pretended it was not there. And I don't know if it worked or not, but it was eating something. I think that was my.
It was distracted.
Yeah. Otherwise, boar chases you, so it's scary.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's scary.
And also, we talked about. I was gonna ask, what music do you listen to? Which bands?
Oh, it's just a mix, right? It's lots of remix stuff. Not anyone particular, but it's just dance music and it's feel good music and whatever's out there. Like I use Shazam much every time I'm outside and I hear a song or a beat that I really, it could be African, Arabic, Spanish, whatever. As long as the beat's good and it makes me feel like moving, I just download it and it becomes part of my running list.
Dang, interesting. I'm very picky about my music because I
Okay.
need to be in specific ways I just listen to. And I don't try to change a lot. Maybe that's bad. I'm still listening to 70s, 80s, 90s, 20s. Yeah. Have not changed a lot about myself. And going back to the mantras or going back to this space when you're running and you're struggling and the motivation is low during the long run, during even your speed training or your marathon, do you have any mantras or cues or any mental strategy that you rely on?
I think, the amount of time I've said to myself, you can do, like I get sick of hearing that, but I say it. You can do this, you can do it. Or put one leg in front of the other, and which is as simple as that. And last week it was just do one more, just one more. And then when I do one more, it's like, can you do one more? Those are the ones that work for me. I think outside visual cues, like seeing other runners waving at you or people looking at you like, oh my God, why is she running? Or that's amazing, she's running. That motivates you. Or little old people who just wave at you and just look at you like they're proud. I think that really helps.
And let's talk about the gears and shoes for a bit. What type of shoes do you wear?
At the moment, I'm running in Nike Zoom Fly 6s, and I've only got them recently, mostly for my tempo runs, and I absolutely love them. I'm not sure why I've never run in Nike. Every time I get a pair of shoes, I like to try different things. I first started running in the Hokas, and I thought they were the best shoes in the world. And then I tried New Balance, and I thought, wow, nothing can beat this. And then Nike, I'm a bit worried that I should stop trying different things because I tend to like everything that I try.
But it's good though. You're trying different shoes and you're figuring out what you want to use.
Exactly. Yeah. But the Nikes are my favorite at the moment.
And are you I think you already said that you're a Garmin. You wear Garmin?
Yes. Yeah. I have Garmin. Garmin's male and he's a bit mean, but yeah, I wear Garmin all the time.
And are you a stat person that goes and looks at all the stats while you're running, or while you are, after you run, you go and look at, oh, look, what is my...
I sit down, Ash, and I look at my Garmin stuff and I analyze every single run and every single feature and compare it to previous ones. And everything's analyzed. So don't let it just pass. It's like it takes a good half an hour.
Now, you said you started running a few years ago just for trying to do something while you were bored of doing the weight training and stuff like that. So you have a lot of years of experience in running, right?
2 years. Yeah, I've been running for 2 years.
What has running taught you about yourself that you didn't know where you were starting 2 years ago and now?
I think to have that mindset to say that you're going to continuously do this, when you're running, you have pain. And there's little voices in your head to say, you can't do this, it's hurting, stop. But that mindset that says no, and it just makes you so mentally stronger that in anything that you do, I say to myself, you run a marathon, so you can do this. You can put up with noises, screaming, crying, babies at work or stress or anything because you run a marathon. I just say that to myself. And I guess it helps because I think it's taught me more how to mentally endure things.
That's funny because I was editing a conversation with Val and Bobby right now. It's one of the episodes we do. And Val said among the same lines, if she has to do something at home, like fold the clothes of laundry or do the dishes or whatever, and she reminds herself that she can do marathon and she can run for hours and hours, so she can do all those things too. It's funny because you just brought that up and I just edited that episode today, so I was like, oh wow, it's the same mindset. And also, let's say somebody is just signing up for the first marathon or somebody is thinking of doing the first marathon. What advice would you give them from your perspective?
I would say perseverance. Just keep doing it. And I would say just run easy, because a lot of people give up because they start those runs and they find them really difficult. Just run at a slower pace so that it's easy for you and you will get better. You just have to keep doing it. That's it.
Okay. And if you could talk to the version of yourself before that 42 shell, what would you say to her?
That's a good one. I think I would just say, yeah, you can do this. You've got this. You can do it. I don't know. I think I'm really happy with myself. I think I'm really proud of myself to have done what I have done, because I wasn't very sport orientated. Everything was about studying and work, and to be able to achieve this outside of work as a hobby, I think it's helped me so much in everything as being an all-rounded person. I think I just just say, yes, you got this and you got to keep doing it.
It's when you are Asian, and especially we're similar background, our parents like, Dad, I want to be a marathoner. What? Marathoner? Go back to your
Yeah.
room, study. Because that's
Go
all
and study, open your books.
that's all we
I didn't really engage in lots of sport when I was younger, especially being female. And that's why I'm so big on it with son. I make sure he's playing his football, he's running, he's swimming, he's doing everything. Because I think there's a huge part of physical activity to play in growth and you as a person and confidence. I think it's important at a young age.
And it's just not about the discipline too, because when you do a
Yes.
sport, then you are more disciplined and you are more focused and, like you say, goal oriented. Because it doesn't matter what you play. If you're playing a soccer, then you have to play with certain formation. You have to be in this position in the field. You can just go up and down and do kind of things.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
sports is really essential for kids because it helps them to become stronger and it helps them give that ability to learn new things, be stronger, obviously. And I think if you compare when we were kids and how things are now, then it's so different because now we are more about we need to get our kids involved in so many things that get them the closer. But when we were growing up, it was not the same thing. It's all about studies and stuff like that. Things have changed a lot. Okay, I think this would be a nice topic. I just thought about that, what you just said to me. Let's say there's a little girl right now. I don't know if she'll listen to this, but if there's a little girl right now and you have this opportunity to talk to her, and let's say she's in Asia, like from outside of the nation or outside of the things, what will you say to her?
With regard to running or just general?
With regards to life. You said it was difficult. Being female is difficult, especially in Asian countries. What would you say to her about the running, about the perseverance and resilience and all those kind of things?
I think the most important thing is for her to achieve what she wants to achieve and the best to her abilities, whether that's working or becoming something that she wants to do, and also being physically active, doing some sort of sports or activities, something that's not the norm or that people would look at and say, why are you doing that? But just to go out there and get what she wants.
These are the questions that I have. And then there is this rapid fire round that I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions. It will be either this or this. So whatever thing that first comes to mind. First thing you do after the race.
After a race, I hold my medal really tight and take pictures with it.
Okay. Most overrated running trend right now?
I think zone 2 training.
If you could only eat one meal forever, what it is?
Chocolate cake with double cream on it.
What's the worst running advice that you have ever got?
No, that's a tough ask. I don't know, to be honest. Everything has its place, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's worse, headwind or humidity?
Headwind.
What's the last thing you Googled about running right now?
Shoes, carbon-plated shoes.
Running in the dark, do you love it or hate it?
I would love to do it, but being female, I have to be mindful. I don't tend to do it because I often run alone.
True. Dream marathon location?
I have two.
Yes.
London Marathon, to me, not because it's a world major, but because it's where I studied. I treated marathoners in those hospitals and thought they were mad. And I know London so well and know all the landmarks. I would love to run it. To me, that's my dream. And the second, I've been seeing a lot of I don't know what the marathon's called, but the marathon around the pyramids in Egypt. That just looks beautiful. Yeah, because it's all about those views and where you are.
I just remember I was talking to somebody who just did a marathon in desert. We have a podcast in a few weeks. I think that would be interesting just to do with all the pyramid. Those would be nicer things to do. Okay. And I think the last question would be, what's next after that sub 4?
I think a sub 3:30. Oh, I don't know. I just want to get better in Boston Marathoner.
Yes.
I think I need it for Boston. Or 3:45.
Is that a goal to get into the Boston?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
When I started running, that was my goal, was to get into the Boston. Now, because I am currently training for 56K, next year 100K. After that, I want to do 100 miles. And I've been, I have scheduled a lot of interviews with the guys who did 250 miles in Coco. That has really inspired me. I know I cannot do that right now. I know my level is not there to do it, but one day. So,
you will, of course. You will do it, Ash. That's amazing.
I don't know how long will it take, but that is my dream someday. Because now I've been following a lot more of trail running, and then it's incredible how these people can do this amazing thing. And I keep asking the question to myself is, what can I 56K is my first hurdle that I have to do. It's in 11 weeks. After that, I'm racing for 100K next year, and then we'll see after that.
That's incredible. Well done. That's amazing.
Thank you. Okay, this is the question that I usually ask to everybody, as you have seen probably all the clips that you see in Instagram. Running has changed my life.
Because it's given me so much confidence and motivation and ability to achieve anything I want, anything.
Okay, that was beautiful. And I really appreciate you coming to the show and talking about your Tokyo experience, talking about how you started and everything.
Thank you, Ash. It was so nice talking to you. I really enjoyed this.
I hope you can get your sub 4 that you're aiming for, then 30, and then Boston. We can talk about the achieve your goal in Chicago Marathon and see how it goes.
Yes.
It would be an interesting conversation to see how your training panned out and everything. So I'm looking forward to your journey and see how you do in your running career. Thank you so much for it, and I will see you again next time.
Thank you, Ash. Take care.
Bye-bye. Hey everyone, thank you for making it to the end of the podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. I'll see you again next time with another guest. Until then, happy running.